Welcome back. Now that we have a feel for the level prototyping tools, it's time to get a little bit of perspective. Now, at the top, we have this icon that says perspective. This is the default method of viewing our level in the viewport. We can change that perspective. We can click on it, and notice that perspective is all the way at the top, but then there's a section called orthographic, and we have a number of options from top all the way down to back. Now, if I click on top, things look quite a bit different, don't they? We no longer see solid objects, but rather the wireframe form of those objects. Now, we can still click on them, and we can still move them around, but we don't see the materials on those objects. We just see their wireframe forms. And notice we're only in 2 dimensions now. We can't move up and down in the Z direction because we're looking down from the top. This can be a useful way to move objects around. It's just one option that we have for manipulating objects. We can switch from top to left, and now we're looking at the scene from the left. Now, we can zoom in with the mouse wheel. We can scroll on in. We can also right-click and drag to move around in the plane that we're in this case, the XZ plane. And we can, again, move objects. We can scale them, rotate them, however we see fit. Now, I'm going to switch back to perspective mode. Now I can see my level in perspective view, which is more natural. Now, if we want, we can see multiple modes at the same time by splitting our viewport. I'm going to go ahead and drag the right panels over, and up at the top right, we have a button. We can hover over it. It says maximizes or restores this viewport. If I click on that, now we have 4 sections of our viewport. The top left is set to back. The top right viewport section is looking at the right, and the bottom right is looking from the top. And we can manipulate objects around, and if I move one in one of these viewport windows, we can see it moving in the others. Now, you do have control in each of these little mini windows to change the perspective. If I change the perspective in the top right to perspective, now I have another perspective window. And I can full screen this particular window if I want to with that same icon, maximize or restore. Now, be careful, it's that bottom left window that we had open originally. It's okay if you maximize this one and then you forget and now you're just working in this one. Just remember that if you split the window again, you're in that top right window and not the bottom left that you were in before. I'm going to put that back to the left view. I believe that's what it was. And I'm going to maximize the bottom left window, and I have my viewport back. So that's just something that you can always do when you're manipulating objects in your world. So now that we know about this perspective menu, let's move to the next one over that says Lit. This is a view mode dropdown, and we can even change to wireframe from here. So now we're in perspective view, but we're in wireframe view mode. So we can't see the materials. We can actually see through objects, and notice that way off in the distance, there's a giant sphere surrounding our world. That's actually our sky sphere. If you click on it, now in the outliner, we see that we've selected our sky sphere. So our level has this giant sphere surrounding it. So that's just another option for you if you'd like to manipulate objects this way in wireframe mode. So we can go back to lit, and now things look normal. Now, another one of these view modes that I go to from time to time is unlit. If I select that, now we're looking at our scene without lighting information. Notice the shadows are gone. I'll go back to lit to show you that there are shadows thanks to the lighting in our level, but in unlit mode, there are no shadows. And this allows us to see things even in the dark. Let's go back to lit mode, and let's take our floor here, and I'm going to hold Alt and drag up on the gizmo in the Z direction. And now we have this sort of ceiling here, and things are dark. And if things are really dark, it can be hard to see when you're moving things around. Now, things got a little brighter because we have this auto exposure setting that sort of mimics the effect of your eyes adjusting to the light or to the dark. That can be turned off. We'll talk about that later. But let's just say that things are too dark down here to see. Well, we can switch to unlit, and now we can see every object as if there are no shadows. So that can be useful when prototyping levels once you have indoor environments and things. I'm going to go back to lit, And I'm going to take that ceiling, I'm going to select it and hit delete, and now it's gone. And of course, we have a lot more view modes. You can check them out if you like, but we're just going to talk about those top 3 for now. Now, next to lit, we have show, and this just allows us to hide things or show things in the world that we want to see or not see. And we know that all of these objects before us here are static meshes. If I uncheck static meshes, they go away. Now, if they don't go away for you, you may have to kick it into gear by selecting a static mesh first, and then go and uncheck static meshes, and now you can hide those. So hiding certain things in the world can be useful when you need them to be out of the way, allowing you to place objects behind them, and so on. You can also hide that grid. You may not be able to see it very clearly on the screen in this video, but you should see it on your screen. This grid is just there to help you out. It's not in the game when you press play. You don't see that grid in the Pi session. But you can hide that grid as well by going to show and unchecking grid. So if you don't like the grid, you can uncheck grid and get rid of it. So now we have some ways to change our perspective as we're level prototyping and building our worlds. And I encourage you to get some practice changing from perspective to top, bottom, left, right, front, and back as you're moving objects around, just to see if it feels a little bit easier, more natural for you. If not, you don't have to do it. And splitting the screen into 4 screens can be useful if you like that. And if not, you don't have to do that either. But it's just another tool in your tool belt as you're making your levels. So excellent job. We now have a lot more capabilities for creating our games in Unreal Engine. We can now prototype levels by dragging in static meshes. And in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about what static meshes are and see some more of the static meshes in our starter content. Great job, and I'll see you in the next video.